At exactly 3:17 a.m., something impossible happened. The Earth stopped. 3:17 a.m., the moment everything changed. No alarms rang. No warnings were sent. No asteroid appeared on any radar. No explosion lit up the sky. It just happened. At 3:17 a.m., across every continent, every ocean, every city, the rotation of Earth suddenly stopped. Not slowed, not shifted, stopped. At first, no one noticed. Inside homes, people slept peacefully. In hospitals, machines continued to beep. In control towers, operators stared at their screens, unaware that beneath them, the planet itself had frozen in motion. If you're thinking, that should have destroyed everything instantly, you're right. But that's what makes this event impossible. Because scientifically, if Earth stopped rotating, the atmosphere would keep moving. Winds would tear cities apart. Oceans would rise into massive waves. But none of that happened. Instead, something far stranger occurred. Outside, the world became still. Not quiet, still. A wave in the Pacific Ocean froze mid-crash. Birds in the sky stopped mid-flight.
A falling glass
Hung in the air, just inches above the ground. Motion stopped, but time continued. Cars could still move. People could still walk, but anything not directly controlled did not. The wind disappeared completely. No breeze, no movement, no sound. It was as if the planet had been paused. In a small city, a man stepped outside. He looked up at the sky and felt something was wrong. Not because of what he saw, but because of what he didn't. Clouds, they weren't moving, not drifting, not changing, just fixed in place. Imagine looking up and realizing the sky itself has stopped. No wind, no motion, no change. Within minutes, reports began to spread. Social media flooded with videos. Frozen oceans, silent skies, motionless clouds.
Global anomaly detected.
Scientists rushed to analyze the data, but their instruments showed something even more disturbing. Earth was no longer rotating. A long pause, 3 seconds, and yet everyone was still alive. That was the moment humanity realized this wasn't a natural event. At first, people thought it was a glitch, a temporary failure, a scientific anomaly. But within minutes, that idea collapsed because the sky was wrong. Not dark, not stormy, just still. Clouds stretched across the horizon like painted images, unmoving, unchanging, frozen in place, as if time had forgotten them. The sky was no longer alive. Pilots were the first to truly understand the danger. High above the Earth, dozens of aircraft remained suspended in the sky, not falling, not advancing, just locked in position. Inside one cockpit, a captain reached forward, adjusting the controls. The engines responded. The systems worked, but the plane didn't move. Not forward, not down. If you're wondering how that's even possible, you're not alone. Because movement without resistance shouldn't exist. The laws of physics were still there. Gravity still pulled. Engines still burned fuel. But motion had been removed. Satellites orbiting Earth stopped, thousands of them, frozen in their paths. Communication signals began to distort. GPS systems failed. Live broadcasts flickered, then stabilized, then flickered again. Global systems malfunctioning. And then something appeared. At first, it wasn't visible, not to the naked eye, but deep space monitoring stations picked up a shape, a structure. Not moving, not approaching, not orbiting, just there. When the first enhanced images came through, scientists didn't speak. They stared. The object was massive, larger than any spacecraft humanity had ever built. Perfectly symmetrical. Sharp edges, smooth surfaces. No visible engines. No signs of propulsion. Unknown object detected. It wasn't affected. While Earth had stopped, while the sky had frozen, this object remained exactly as it was, unaffected. That's the moment everything changed. Because now, this wasn't just an unexplained event. It was intentional. Across the world, governments shut down airspace. Emergency alerts were prepared, but never sent, because no one knew what to say. How do you explain that the planet has stopped and something is watching? People began to notice it, a faint shape in the sky, barely visible unless you looked long enough, and once you saw it, you couldn't unsee it. It was always there. It didn't arrive. It didn't move. It was already here. For 12 hours, nothing changed. The oceans remained frozen, the sky unmoving, the object still watching. No sound, no wind, no explanation. 12 hours of silence. Across the world, people waited. Some prayed. Some recorded. Some simply stared at the sky, hoping it would move again. And then everything turned on. Phones, televisions, billboards, computers all at once. Even devices that had no power lit up. Global signal activated. A signal was being transmitted, not from Earth, from the object. The screen didn't show images, no symbols, no alien language, just text, simple, clear. We paused your world because you were not ready. No one spoke. No one moved, because somehow everyone understood it. That's what makes this moment so disturbing. It wasn't translated. It wasn't decoded. It was understood instantly, as if the message was meant specifically for us. And then a second line appeared. You are being observed. Panic spread instantly, not loud, not chaotic, silent, the kind of fear that doesn't need sound. Scientists tried to respond. Signals were sent. Messages broadcast. There was no reply. Only the object, still hanging in the sky, watching. And then, without warning, everything resumed. The oceans crashed forward. The wind roared back to life. Aircraft dropped, then stabilized midair. Time continued. Earth resumed rotation. The object was gone, no flash, no movement, just gone. No trace remained. No debris, no signal, only recordings, memories, and one message that no one could forget. We paused your world because you were not ready. If something like this ever happened in reality, the question wouldn't just be what stopped the Earth. It would be, what are we not ready for? A long fade to black.